Hello students, today we will do chapter 6, that is Peasants and Farmers. First, let's see the introductions. Ole, kumzabi tam tak liam ta agricultural producers, peasants and farmers. Tele colonial forces mingo ho inbe dan chanchin kha hemi chapter a hianin kan zir dona chuan Indian ram minron obe hnuwa opium ching tu tene na anin ti thiam lo dan chanchin te kan zir don ani. And now let's see this dawn of modern agriculture in England. In 1830, the English countryside was beset by a series of riots by agricultural workers protesting against the introductions of horse-driven threshing machines, low wages, and oppressive tithes. Rich tenants farmers were targeted, and the attacks were preceded by letters from a legendary figure named Captain Swing. Hence, the uprising is popularly known as the Swing Riots. Okay, dawn of modern agriculture in England. Omzia chu England rama agriculture lama eng khovar tinani chu. Chuan kum 1830 chhovel khan England ram chu nge ram nam changkang ti taka nge threshing machine te kha an siam chuak ta ni sakor thachak na mang khanin chutia an thil siam chhuat te le kut na thok tu te hlo an pek hiam lu tu ka wang ten le thil tam taka kut na thok tu te an da hnuai lu tuk awang khanin lo nei tu te le sumdong mi hausa agriculture sumdong mi te inkar kha nasat takin alo buai chhota ni buai na thleng chowa chuanin khati hun laia captain swing an ti le khatoi te awang khanin swing riots swing ati chuani chu mo inti buai na intual vuak na kha athleng ta ni okay chuan kan hriat tur chu England rama khanin agriculture a hianin development mason na tam tak kha athleng ani ti kha kan lo hrem hasadon nia and now let's see these open fields, commons and enclosures. Open field system. Land was classified into many categories in medieval England between the 5th and the 15th century. Agrarian settlements followed the open field system. Okay, medieval England kha kumzabi panga na atanga som panga inkara chuanin ram alazau thaboka agriculture lama khanin masom tumna kha neilo ma se tu te mei po kha abikin peasants le farmers te kha in todel turin chung ramzau tak mo open land te chu atul dana zirin anin sem thlia lom ani chu and next let's see this point number 2. Scattered stripped. The strips were scattered as the effort was to ensure that everyone had a mix of good and bad land. Omzia chu ram achia po acha po peasants te khanin achalai big omlowin anin sem thap tinani chu and next we go to number 3. Large fields of uncultivated land surrounded the farm fields known as the commons was accessible to all villagers there. Ale hi anram zau pui me kha engma la chin lo na kha thingtlang khomiten anin sema chuanin anran te an tlatira chuan sangaman nan te le ram wa chwa nan te anin sem thlap ani chu chung hun lai chuanin rural poor anti thingtlang mi re thei te tan phei chuanin intun nun na om chhun ani. And next we go to wool farming. In the 16th century, following the increase in the price of wool in the world market, many rich peasants wanted to expand wool productions to earn profits. Kum zabi 16 som parukna alo then chuanin mi hausa ten wool beram atanga lak chua sumdo na kha hlok anti awangin na sat takin beram vul kha war turin anram mipui the kha anin fui phur ani chu chuanin next divided and enclosed commons. The commons were divided and enclosed by buildings, heights through demarcates individual property holdings. This was done by rich peasants to control large areas of lands in compact blocks to allow improved breeding of sheep. Okay, commons kan ti chuan mi re theite le lo nei tu te khan nia ti chuan khang ho khan in fel fai takin ram kha anin semani kha mo ma se a house azok rich peasants lo nei tu house azok te khan in khami an ram in sema khan in building te an saknan ta ni mo alal zok mo a house azok a thu nei zok an ni awang khan in ram zau takha an hawa mo an lawin sem chho tan ta ni omzia chu common ho kha an nek an chep ta tial ti na ni chu and now let's see this poor lost their sustenance. Unfortunately, villagers who possessed small cottage on the commons were driven out. The poor were not allowed entry within the enclosed field and were hence deprived of a major means of their sustenance. Ole mire thei zok ten an eizon na an hlau chawa a chan chu a house zok ten nge duam taka thilan ti awangin an ram loin semte atang khanin lo nei tu re thei zok te kha an hno chuak ta ni tin enclosure field kha mi house hoin an lo ta chei awang khanin an om kha arem talowa ti chuanin lo nei tu re thei zok ten pumpel rual lo harsat na re thei na an tong chhota ani and now we go next we go to this aids of enclosure. Okay, aids of enclosure kan ti chuanin bithia chin neya mi hausa ten ram manin sem dan ti na ni kumzabi sompariat lai holvel khan inlen ram kha bule bal tharnan khan athasiya ramzau pui mei kha enclosure an tia mi hausa ten anrem shia na mangin mire theite nek chwa nan khanin mi hausa ten ram kha anin semta chu enclosure kan ti chu ni and now let's see the features of this enclosure ni phung kan en liang. Let's see enclosure legalized. Between 1750 and 1850, 6 million acres of land was enclosed, and the British Parliament added its weight to the process by passing 4000 acts legalizing this enclosure. Okay, kum 1750s le 1850s inka rakhanin England rama aram thalai tak 6 million acres to British rorel na insang British Parliament 4000 x anti mangin dana an siamani mo chuan mi hausa ten an ram zau takha ta bik pual bik nein an lawin sem ti nani chu so next is aimed at increasing cultivation. Unlike the early enclosure, the later moves was aimed at increasing the land under cultivations. Enclosure te ang nilawin lo nei tu hausa ten anril ru dan chuanin England ramzau takha bule bal chin nanatan siam antum ti nani chu and next we go to innovations in agriculture. Simple innovations were also introduced. Farmers discovered that planting clovers and turnips alternately with wheats increasing the nitrogen contents of the soil and added to its fertility. Okay, ngai tuana tharte an mangchana ti chuanin clover kan ti te turnip te khatiang chin ringot kha chuanin an ram leilung tha kha adave thin ti te kha an lo hre chuak ta ni chumo ti chuanin a kum in kar thlakin wheat nen khanin an chin pawlh ta a chu chuanin an ram leilung thatna kha a bel chha ani ti te kha an lo hre chuak ta zel ani chu. And next point number 4 is enclosure. Indispensable for expanding. Enclosure where thus seen as indispensable for long-term investment of land. It enabled the rich landlords to expand the cultivable areas and produce more for markets. Okay. And next we go to demand for food grains. The shift in the purpose of the enclosures coincided with the rising demands for food grains in England. In the mid-18th century, England witnessed a tremendous increase in populations. Such a rise in populations naturally required more productions of food grains. The other reasons that propelled the landlords to put pressures to the parliament to pass the enclosure acts were, point number 1, rise in demands in urban areas. Due to these industrial revolutions, more and more people began to live and work in urban areas. This in turn led to an increase in demand for food grains, which led to an increase in its prices. Okay, and point number 2 is rise in demand due to war. France was at war with England, which disturbed trade and imports of food grains from Europe. Food grains price rose steeply, and the thoughts of substantial profits encouraged landlords to invest in cultivations. Ole huna local zela England ram kha alo changkang chho zela ti chuan kumzabi sompariat na lai hol vela khan mi pui populations po kha alo pung chho ta ni chu chuan 1750s vela mi makta duai 5.7 vela om kha kum 1990s alo thlen chuanin 41.6 millions lai khan lo ni ta ni chu wang chuanin food grains lampang kha na sataka ti pun kha alo lang chuak ta ni chu chuan nichina kan soi enclosure ek kha dan atul na te point ni kha kan soi le don ani chung chu kha page number 75 rise in demands in urban areas ti kha thingtlang mi ten an hna kha an chan tak awangin khopuya khanin an pem na sa ni chu chuanin demand ati sang ta a eile in khopui lama khanin angai na sata ni chumo ti chuan chuwang chuanin enclosure ekhi ti ngei tura an ngai ani. Point number 2 chu rise in demands due to wars ati France le England anin do na sat awang khanin eile ina nge mamo na kha asang zok athena wangin he enclosure ekhi pass aloni bok ani chu and next we go to introductions of this threshing machine. During the Napoleonic War, apprehensions about the scarcities of labor pushed the landlords to buy new threshing machine. This horsepower threshing machine reduced the landlords' dependence on agricultural workers and were also more cost effective. Coal threshing machine horsepower sakor thachakna mangin an siam chuaka he khol hianin mihring tha le na ati tlema ti chuan ati dai zai bok ani chuanin chumei baga chuanin drill machine te horse driven hoeing machine te chuan leitha thedarna machine for spreading manure te kha an lo siam chuak thei ta kha nin na satakin England ram agriculture kha ati mason bok ani. And next we go to effects of modern agricultural practice. The dual activities of these creating enclosures and mechanizations of these agricultural productions resulted in significant transformations of these English countryside, some of these are listed below. Open field disappeared. Rich farmers made profit by expanding grain productions and selling grains in the world markets. Customary rights of the peasants were undermined. Peasants and landless laborers were displaced. The poor migrated from the village to find employment. Practice of this employing seasonal laborers meant uncertainty of employment and unstable income. Okay. Point number 1, open field disappeared. Atir lama kan soi mirithei tena anram anlawin se mangchi te kha open field kha tibo anitani. So chuanin point number 2 mi house zo lo nei tu ten hlok na tam tak kha an tel chho ta ni chuan point number 3 a chuan peasants lo nei tu re thei ten an lo nei ve thin te kha an hli sak ta ni chuanin khawl an lo hmu chhuah ta ka wang khanin kut hna thok tu te an lo kiam ta ni maw chuanin thingtlangah khan mi rethei tam tak kha an awm ta ka wangin khawpui lamah khanin hna zawngin an pem lut tawak bawk tihna ni chu. And next we go to creations of the world's bread basket in America. While the enclosure movement was rapidly transforming the English countryside, extensive settled agriculture production was a distant reality in America. In the 18th century, forests occupied 800 million acres and grassland spread over 600 million acres in USA. White American settlers were restricted to a small narrow strips of this coastal land in the east till 1780s. Ole kumzabi sompariat na vel khanin America ram ngozau tak acres 800 millions azau awma chuanin bu hmun atana tha em mai phai zol kha acres 600 million set mai kha awm bawk ani chung hun lai chuanin American ho khani kha is coastal land mo kan ti tuipui vau kama khanin hmun zim te an wain an khosa ve ani chuan khati lai khan American rama omsa nomadic settlers groups kan ti red Indians te kha ram va te fishings te khatiang ba kha an thok ngai lo ani chu mo ti chuan an ti ngai lo a ti chuanin kumzabi somli na alo thlen meu chuanin white American ho kha an lo pung thata ni American khotlang lama an thleng thla a hmun alo thasia bule bal nen reilo te a USA kan ti hi alo thang duangin khovel puma agricultural markets a ho tu ni na thon chuak tu tamber hausani na kha alo hau chho ta ni ole khati zong kha voina kan zir thei chu nia naktu ka kan chhun zom liang. Thank you all.